hope you're all okay. Luke here from LAGFX. We are back today with another Sunday Sessions video. If you don't know what this series is, this is where both me and James look at the markets come a weekend. We analyse the markets and decide and dictate what we believe is going to happen in the coming week. This gives you guys the opportunity to, one, have the upper hand come the trading week, as we give you specific areas and places that we can look to place and execute positions, but it also gives you an insight into how both me and James like to trade. Now, the four pairs I'm going to go over today are as follows. So we are going to start with AUD USD, then we're going to move over to the Great British Pound to the US dollar, then over to the XAU USD, and then we're going to finish on the Euro USD. If you do enjoy the video, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up. All the support you guys provide is very much appreciated. We are forever growing and we are forever grateful for that. Now, without further ado, let's jump straight into this week's Sunday Sessions video. Okay, so jumping straight into things, as we can see on screen, we have the AUD USD market. Looking at this market, straight from the offset, we can see how this market has been predominantly bearish, and we wanted to look for those bearish opportunities. We wanted to look for sell positions in order to profit by trading with the trend. Okay, now recently what we have seen is actually breaks of structure take place both fractally and on the higher time frame structure, which indicates a potential for a reversal. So moving forward this week, I will probably be looking for buy opportunities, as the markets are telling me that they are now looking to go long. So what I'm doing here is highlighting the main break of structure that I have seen. As we can see, this was a structural high, as this went on to set this structural low here. What we have seen then is actually a break in this protected high, creating a new higher high. So we can now expect that price has to pull back, grab any remaining demand that is left over, and hopefully push the price back up to create a new higher high. So what I'll be doing is waiting patiently as of the open on Sunday. I'll be waiting for price to trail us back into this demand zone that I have highlighted here. This is a point of interest of mine. As we can see, if we zoom in slightly, this is a last sell to buy candle within all of this, we can see here, which has been left unmitigated. So I'd love to see price fall into this, present us with the fractal breaks of structure to the upside, the confirmation we need essentially to get involved and execute those buy positions. Now you might be wondering, well, where is our final take profit target? Well, that is to actually be distinguished. What we would do is we would look within this impulsive wave that took us down into the market, and we would find any areas that were left unmitigated that price needs to tap into before starting its next bearish impulsive run. So if you guys want to highlight the zone for yourself, I've put the increments here. Just look on the 1 hour time frame and you'll see the last sell to buy candle that's been produced there. Okay, so overall AUD USD is pretty basic, pretty simple. So we can see the break of structure to the upside. That is suggesting bullishness moving forward. So we want to be looking for those buy opportunities. So because of that, I've highlighted this area that we can look to buy from, and we're going to ride this up until we find a higher time frame point of interest, where we'll then look to get involved in those longer term sell positions, as that is the prevailed trend. Okay, so now moving over to the Great British Pound to the US dollar. This market looks a bit untidy, should we say? Not how I usually analyze the markets, but it's a very similar scenario. So we've had a break of structure to the upside here, as you can see. So if we just highlight this again suggests bullishness moving forward. So we want to be looking for price to pull back into an area that has been left unmitigated. So if you guys want to head on down to the lower time frames, try and find a last sell to buy candle. I found one here. This looks perfect. So we can expect that price should realistically trail back into this zone here before presenting us with its next bullish impulse. Fractal bullish impulse, should we say. Now, in terms of a final take profit target, I actually went through this impulsive wave and distinguished some areas that we could see price reverse from. So this is a path on how I believe price is going to play out. So I want the price to come down. We are going to look to execute buy positions around here. So keep this area in mind. We then want to trail it up to either here And then if we are presented with the structure we need in order to close those buy positions and place those sell positions, we can do. Or we want price to trail us into this zone here, where we will then look to do the same. So these are the two areas I've got for our longer term sell positions. But we are wanting to see a continuation in this bullishness before looking for those longer term sells. So we can definitely look to get involved in buy positions this coming week. Okay, next moving over to XAU USD. Again, we have been trading this market very well. We have profited exponentially from this market. As of recently, we have placed plenty of positions, 3 or 4 in total, I think, from this entire impulsive wave down. What we are seeing now is that bullish retracement before the continuation in bearishness. As you can see, our take profit target hasn't been achieved yet, and I am expecting that to be taken later on this week. So what we have noticed and what we've seen is price has actually trailed and tapped us perfectly into a point of interest that I had in mind. What we want to see now is bearishness be produced, essentially. So we have been delivered with that penetration and the rejection. That's great. Now what we need to do is we need to look for an unmitigated area that price can come and trail us back into. So we've seen that this has been cleared by this, but it looks like more bullishness is underway. So let's go down time frames again. Let's see if we can find anything. That looks okay. So it looks like this may just be coming to clear this here, in which case we could look for those sell opportunities come Sunday night, assuming we have the right confirmation. If not, let me just double check on the 1 minute time frame. We could say this as well, but if we look closely, we can actually see how we had bearishness that came down. We then had bullishness that took us up. We then had a close here. Price opened here. Price then came down. Probably came up to clear anything from here and then closed down here. So it's a bit tricky. I mean, this could be a potential area that price could want to trail back into. So we could just highlight this whole zone as a potential area to look for sell positions. But I think that price may disregard that and just go from this here. So we want to see price trail into this. If we are given the right confirmation to look for sell positions, then we can do exactly that. Okay, so last but not least, we have Euro USD. I know James was trading this market last week. He was placing those sell positions, so he took full advantage of this move here. But we have seen a break in that. We have seen structure break to the upside. As I predicted, the start of last week, probably actually last week's Sunday sessions video, I expected price to trail us into this zone. We are now seeing that take place. So as we can see, very simple, very straightforward. I want price to continue doing what it's doing, trail us into this zone, provide us with the bearishness we desire, breaks of structure to the downside fractally, and then we can look to execute those positions. So quite simply, penetrate the zone, break structure to the downside, provide us with some kind of confluence or confirmation that price is now ready to go bearish, and then we can look to execute and get involved. Very simple, very straightforward. Have a look at the 1 hour time frame. Highlight this entire zone here, as this is left unmitigated and needs to be cleared in order for price to take its next move lower. Okay, so those are the 4 markets I am looking at today. My analysis has been quite brief, it always is. What I like to do is give you specific zones that you can work with. 9 times out of 10, my zones come through, my zones are valid, and my zones work. So if you highlight these zones, if you're provided with the right confluence and the confirmation, execute those positions and profit alongside the LAGFX team. If you have enjoyed my analysis today, remember to give the video a thumbs up. What I'm going to do now is pass you over to James, and he is going to run over some of the markets that he is looking to tackle this coming week.
Hey everybody, James here from LAGFX. Hope you've enjoyed Luke's analysis so far. And as always, I'm going to be starting off again on the EUR US dollar. So we have had something quite unexpected, not unpredictable. Obviously anything can happen in the market, so we can never be surprised too much by a move that happens, because we always have to prepare for the fact that price may not follow our bias and understand how we would want to tackle the market given that happens. So if we just look on screen now at what I am viewing, we see that obviously we had this redistribution in the market, And from the upthrust or the manipulation of this redistribution schematic, that is where we started this major impulse down, which had come to break this previous low in the market, therefore setting a new low. Now, one thing that could have been anticipated is the fact that this impulsive wave only broke the previous low by a very small amount. Now, in my eyes, the less room there is between the previous lower low and the newer one is an indication of how much supply there was in the market during the creation of that newer low in this cycle of bearishness. So what we see is, even if we go back to previous examples of this, where arguably what's happened is the previous overall impulsive wave was this entire move. Now, the reason why it's not this is an impulse, this correction, because this initial push down did not break the previous low. Therefore, this move is one as a whole that was created as an impulsive wave to break that previous low. So we have that as a bearish impulsive wave. We see that what actually happened here, just as reference, is we broke the previous low in the market by, I can actually see that, 400 pips. Whereas we come on to the next example that we have, and we see the difference here is 50. So that is 8 times more distance we've got from the previous lower low in this example than the one here. So that's obviously going to be an indication for starters that supply is potentially being exhausted. However, during the creation of this region and this phase of consolidation, my bias was pretty much the fact that the creation was the purpose of building a new redistribution to then take price lower. And that was evident to me by the fact that we had a nice bit of liquidity getting built up, initially broken by an upthrust, more liquidity built, an upthrust after distribution coming to clear all of that, as well as mitigating any remaining positions up here. And then we see that we have a change of character delivered in my eyes, where we have seen a low get broken. And when that low gets broken, that is going to be early confirmation of bearishness taking over. After that, we see that price starts reacting to supply zones, which in our eyes means that, right, we've had a change of character. We've then had price reacting to supply zones. So that would be an indication that as of that point right there, supply was in control. We have that confirmation that bearishness should be resuming, but we see that that never happened. We never saw price come to exceed that current target. And what's happened is the swing high in this region has been broken. So that disregards this impulsive wave lower and means that, okay, there's two things that could be happening here. Either we are reversing longer term and we could be viewing this instead as an accumulation in the market to start taking price higher, or what's happening is we're simply delivering a correctional wave back into these regions where we have 2 supply zones remaining. We have a clear buy to sell region up at this supply zone, this order block, which is one place that needs to be mitigated first, because obviously we've had this buy to sell, which I've refined slightly, this buy to sell, and then a heavy push down, which comes to break structure to the downside. And within this as well, we have some market inefficiency after the buy. So that's some nice confirmation of that being a zone. What we're seeing inside of here is this is actually a hidden supply zone, whereas when we go to the lower time frames, that is a nice buy to sell. That is unmitigated. That is followed by some market inefficiency. And then everything above this zone in this region has been mitigated on a lower time frame. There is absolutely nothing in there that shows a buy to sell where price hasn't left that region and then come back and tapped into it already. So I don't believe we need to look inside of anything higher than this, and therefore it is likely, not given, but it is likely that if price does come to exceed these levels, it's then going to start invalidating these highs. We're going to start zooming out to view even higher time frame points of interest, which off the top of my head, we're looking at a supply zone there, which is pretty clear, buy to sell, huge inefficiency. And then again, the same thing here, a huge buy to sell, clears liquidity, inefficiency after the fact. So I'm definitely liking both of those zones longer term. Now, we still have the expectation for price to be bearish, and until we start seeing some major moves higher with demand clearly being in control, and that being backed by the fact that the dollar is losing strength and the euro is gaining strength, that is the only scenario we need to see for me to assume that this market is going to go into bullishness longer term. But as of right now, I'm definitely keeping my bearish bias in this market, and will be making my predictions and revolving my bias around that. So yeah, longer term, we'll just be waiting to see price continue bullish up into one of these two zones, see if we get any form of reaction. If not, and we continue higher, we'll then be zooming out again, looking for reactions from these zones even higher. But during the meantime, of course, if we invalidate the both of these, we have a lot of wiggle room. And that is around 170 pips, where we could just find some shorter term buy positions that we will look to hold to try and trade price up into supply zones, similarly to what I was trying to do in this region, where I identified this as a impulsive wave higher. We have 3 zones in this region that overall sell to buy that caused this impulsive wave. We see there is a clear sell to buy candle here, which is paired with inefficiencies. Again, we have a very small buy to sell in this region, which takes us out of this sort of consolidation phase. Inefficiency above. So those are 3 regions in the market that could hold enough reversal power due to the fact that there is an order remaining in that region. Obviously, prices fallen through the first, but we still have 2 regions to look at. So if we see price tap into these, we find some form of entry confirmation or reversal power, then we can begin to look for buy positions there. Now, move on over. This should be a fresh dollar yen chart. Remove all drawings. What we can see here is that we are actually at new highs as of recent. And okay, this market doesn't have enough data, but if we go on the Forex Central Market chart, there is actually enough data where we see that price had been downtrending until it entered this region. So what's happening is there isn't like any supply zones in the market until I think it's like 180, if not 200s. So I believe that price is going to resume bullishness until we approach those points, and we're going to continue within this move for some time to come. However, it's deciding whether we have another form of reaccumulation or we have another pullback within that point. Because surely we cannot just continue in this extremely high momentum move until we pretty much approach the targets that we want higher. What I will actually do is go to that market. It's just because it had drawings on, so I didn't want to confuse you all. But as you see here, this is what I'm talking about, and the zones that I was referencing are up somewhere in this region. Yeah, looking at like 235, if not up at this region around that 290 level. So if we reference that back, 235 is extremely far away from where we are now, and I'm going to make the assumption that we will resume bullishness until we approach those regions. So we're pretty much looking inside of here and trying to determine, well, is there anywhere that price could pull back to longer term? Okay, well, we're seeing some regions inside of here, but is it likely that the dollar ever loses enough strength for that to happen? We see that price pulls back into that region. Let's go down to a daily. Is there anything inside of here? Yeah, so those have been mitigated, so on and so forth. We have a region inside of here that remains unmitigated, and potentially then also this region in this area. So those on the daily time frame are 2 regions we can watch. As we go lower, obviously more and more are going to pop out to us. But all we're really expecting price to do is I'm just working down the time frames, identifying multiple different demand zones so that I am prepared to trade price regardless of what it wants to follow, whether it keeps following this fractalized structure with short pullbacks, or if we are eventually going to get that longer term retracement. I have those zones identified there so I understand what price may do, but my bias for this longer term is that we are going to stay bullish for a long time to come, and therefore if we can get involved in those buy positions and hold those for a long time with the hope and expectation that we can keep those running for weeks if not months and have price continue with the same momentum it has. So the main zone we're seeing here on this time frame, we're looking at 140.66, so that'll be the first one to view. My alert will be set in that region. As we go lower, of course, there may be some intermediary zones inside of this region that we want to identify, but it seems that now that price is falling this low, the only thing that really makes sense to me is for price to come all the way down into these regions to mitigate those. So my alert set there, 140.66. I would potentially suggest you do the same, as that to me is the closest zone I can find. I would suggest also you do your own analysis and own finding of your own zones to figure out where you want price to pull down to. But yeah, that is pretty much my bias for Euro US and US dollar yen. Sorry, there's not too much to go off on dollar yen, but as you see, I mean, what can we really do? The market is that heavily bullish that it's a case of just identifying the odd few demand zones that are left and hoping that price pulls back into them. So yeah, that is my bias on those two markets. I hope that helps shed some light on what I'm seeing, how I will tackle the market in this coming week, and also provide you with some knowledge that you could potentially implement into your own analysis. If you have enjoyed, any support is highly appreciated. It helps us get out there a whole lot more. So likes, comments, shares, subscribing, turning on notifications, all of these things is a huge help to us. So if you do any of those, it would be highly appreciated. A reminder, as always, if you're not involved in the LAGFX Learning Lounge, as of right now, that is the place to be. We update our analysis, update any winning trades or losing trades that we have placed in that coming week based off the analysis shown to you inside of these videos. And then on top of that, you get a lot of business updates, a lot of reminders, a lot of giveaways, all that good stuff. So that will be flashed on the screen somewhere around this region. And yeah, go to the description, get involved, and without further ado, we will see you next Sunday in next week's Sunday sessions.